Okay. All right, cool.
It's so cute. Estate sales. There's actually a really good one this weekend in Desert Bloom. They do like the really good ones. They're often really expensive at the beginning, but I think on the last day it's 50% off. And a lot of people wait for them, but yeah.
Estate sales.
Yeah, if you Google like estate sales Albuquerque, it will show like a lot of them that are like in Albuquerque, but it also shows Santa Fe. There's Greenlight is a big one, and then Desert Bloom is a big one.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, like
What is an estate sale? It's when
So-
someone's selling all their stuff.
often it's when like somebody dies or somebody's getting old and they're like gonna be sent to like a care facility. Sometimes it's when people move, but like I think the majority of them are older folks. So a big thing with that is like,
Nice.
yeah, younger people don't like buy. You know, people
Yeah.
buy them up really nice furniture and glassware, and like it's a lifetime's worth of really good stuff.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I think at the last big one I went to, I got like a Victorian sort of cabinet thing that like retail, like on Etsy was like over $1,000, and I got it for like 80. So
So amazing. I've never even thought about going to an estate sale.
if you're into like, if you ever go to Phoenix, oh my god, because you like here you Google and it's like maybe 2 on the weekend, but Phoenix is like. It's amazing. Like I almost sometimes wish I lived in Phoenix just for the estate sale scene, but you know, you can't have
Estate sale scene.
but you can't have like everything. You only have one house or one apartment.
Yeah.
Stuff in.
Nice clothes.
Yeah, usually you have to like, they'll show if they have nice clothes. I find that a lot of them are not, like at least around here, I haven't, compared to like when I was in Denver, there was a lot more in Denver.
Okay, yeah.
I
Yeah.
noticed like Santa Fe, a lot of people don't advertise, like, cause I'll go there for like massages sometimes. And then I'll just see like signs up, so they're not always, or even Craigslist, people advertise on Craigslist, so yeah, the whole world. I will like only like buy like typically like furniture, glassware,
Yeah.
kitchen stuff. A lot of like older people have
Yeah.
really nice kitchen stuff.
Brilliant.
It's like vintage.
Brilliant. I'll keep that in mind when I need to get stuff.
Totally. One, like, yeah. You might still. That's
I'm really socially awkward.
It's the vibe. Is it socially awkward or vibe? You really have to figure it out. That's the vibe.
There you go. Just sit and observe.
All right, I'm gonna try a different system today.
The tea first.
See if I make less of a mistake and less of a mess rather. We'll see, no guarantees. We'll get there. All right.
Do we need like towels and napkins on the floor?
No,
Let's.
I'm gonna be optimistic
The life on the edge.
and say, oh, like that'll eat itself and then later it'll be ready for us. I still need a. Life order.
Just some copper, love some copper.
Not my intention to keep you waiting, you know, but it's nice to chat amongst yourselves. I had friend teachers who were always so late to class. It was so disturbing. And I mean, it would be like 11 o'clock at night. You know, scheduled for 9 or 10, like 11:30 rolls around. And, yeah, totally. But they were nice people to hang out with, you know, while we waited for class to happen. I'll never do that to you. Hi, friends. I'm here. Sorry, I'm late. Hey,
Ren.
Oscar. How
Fine, and you? How was
wonderful.
vacations?
Wonderful. Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Cool.
Yeah, totally. I think it's a really good idea to sometimes go on vacation.
Nice.
Cool. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, sorry, I got the weeks mixed up, and then
Oh.
like I saw that. and I was like, well, it's because I'm-
Whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy to have you. It's wonderful. Oh, here, I'll give you guys little things. I have little pieces of paper in case you don't have pieces of paper, right? Which you said you don't.
Yeah.
It's fine.
More.
Well, here, you can give it back to me.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Look at that, you just pulled it up. I like it. All right, cool. I mean, you know. Oh. You cracked the code? Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right, so how do I do it? How do I think that I've been doing it long enough that I don't remember how I figured it out. Back of the ring fingers to each other. Then I grab cross the pinky fingers and grab them with your thumbs. And then cross your middle fingers over one another and use your index fingers to grab your middle fingers. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It just so doesn't matter. But I hope you
yeah, mine is like, I have a really hard time, it's like these fingers don't have so much structure, well, they feel like they don't have structure.
Yeah, totally. I like it. Yeah, look at that. Cool. Hey, me again. Mandala, offering of the mandala. Sashi Puki Jukshin Metok Dram Rirab Lingshin Yende Gembadi Sangye Shingdu Mikte Uargi Drokun Namdak Shingla Juparsho Iram Guru Radha Mandala Kaniyatayami. Kepdro Semke, refuge in the wish, 3 times. Sangye Chirang Soki Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Ki Pe Sonam Ki Drola Vinchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chirang Soki Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuji Dagi Chishe Kipe Sonam Ki Drola Vinchir Sangye Drupar Shok Sangye Chadang Soki Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Chinsok Kipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Druparsho. See, it'll be hot now. I'll add the milk at the end. The milk is always the problem. Then you stand nearby and we'll see. It's always the milk is the problem. The milk is frothy, even oat milk. That's why all the baristas love the oat milk. Because it froths so nicely. Really? Just like real milk. Yeah, totally. I think that's why oat milk became hip in this world, because baristas could make cute little frothy beverages and draw swans and onis or whatever else they draw. Okay. Okay. How much of this am I going to do to you? Relatively little. Okay. Here, but just for hexing giggles. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wrong. That's okay. I like my way. Okay. Okay, say Nyam Su
Nyamsu
Lende
Lende,
Lembe
Lende
Che.
Shi.
Okay. Che means Dharma. You ever heard that word? Have you heard that word? You've heard that word. What does that word mean, Oscar? Oh, sure. You freeze as soon as I ask you something. The nerve. That's okay. Yeah, what do you think?
what you're meant to do for work.
Oh, it can be. Yeah. In the yeah, no, totally. There's a bunch of possible answers. Oh, Oscar unfroze. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. To hold. Oh, again.
Oh, to hold something. Yeah, that's so true. It's another meaning. It's also like not
To
the
turn?
meaning in the context, but it's a right answer. Yeah.
Is it like bringing something from one thing to
Oh, I don't know about that one. It's possible.
another?
In the Bhagavad Gita, they get into this big thing about your dharma, like your role, like what role you're supposed to fulfill in life. That's a thing.
Purpose. Right?
Yeah, it can mean that, right? It can also mean a dharma is like, it could be anything. We get the word tree, probably, truth, from her, which means to like hold some nature or essence. Okay, so it can also be a word for anything, but generally speaking, in the study of Buddhism, Hindu thought, like ancient Indian philosophy, it means a teaching, a truth, right? Like, what's that? You're like, oh, I was gonna say that. Yeah, but if you had been wrong, we'd have kicked you out of class, so it's not worth it. Yeah, totally. Yeah, right. Yeah, it means a teaching, it means a truth, right? Probably the word truth comes from her. The D becomes a T. The R stays an R. Truth, Dharma, tree. I forget why tree. But yeah, a tree stands strong. I don't know why tree, but I'm pretty sure that's correct for whatever reason. Tree comes from that. So what's going to happen in the book at this point and in your homework, it's going to be about Nyamsu Lemba. Nyamsu Lemba means like to practice. Okay, so to practice a dharma. I like Shri's music, but I'm gonna close the door. It's a nice background, but I'm not gonna subject this to it. It's dank out there, man. I'm not doing hot yoga. Good. Hot philosophy. No, not as good. In my experience. So it means like to be practiced, or like what is worth practicing. So it's like what kind of a teaching, or what kind of a system, what kind of a dharma, what kind of a practice. Okay, dharma could be a practice. What's worth practicing, and how do you decide, right? Life's short, and kind of like, are they all? I kind of like this topic for us because I think it's cool to have a discussion about, like, I think there's a nice modern idea. Oscar's frozen, so he's not going to mind me walking around wearing this bottom too. I think there's this nice modern idea that like all paths point to the same place, or like all paths are the same. And I'm not really in any position to judge that. I don't know if they lead to the same place. What do I know? You don't know until you get there, right? Do they necessarily lead to the same place? I don't know that that's even a fair assumption necessarily. Is that a safe assumption? Could there be? In fact, I would dare say it's probably even bordering on absurd to say that you couldn't give a wrong religious or philosophical teaching, right? If I tell you like the best path to happiness is to go run around punching everyone in the belly, just don't think it's going to work. Or I don't know, send an army to Jerusalem and kill everyone until there's nothing but Christians left. As has been tried in the past. I don't think that is the legit, my opinion, right? We don't got to accept my opinion. My opinion, I don't think that is a legit path to go kill everybody until everybody agrees with you. Legit path for what? I hope to be happy, healthy, well-adjusted people, right? So like what goes into that? Okay, there's a saying, okay, here, you can say it for good luck and I won't write it down, okay? Say, Churkung, Mela, Lotong, Dudrupa, Jekyang, Tokpa, Senden, Nechik, Mike. Okay, Mike means you cannot develop, okay? Or something like, there's this metaphor that comes up of like a butter churn. Okay, so like a butter churn, it's a big deal in Tibet. Like vegetables, I guess, are hard to grow in Tibet, and so you get a lot of nutrients from yak butter. It's probably zo butter. I think actually the yaks are boys technically, so you have like a vessel with a stick and a hole, and you go like that for a while, and eventually you got butter. Okay, I don't know if you ever tried that. You can buy cream at the store and put it in a jar and shake it for a while, and eventually you get butter. It's fun, whatever. Kids do it. It's cute. Spread it on toast. It's a hoot. Can you do that with water? Like, how long would you have to shake the jar to get the butter to turn into water? Sorry, to get the water to turn into butter. How long?
Is this like a Jesus turning water to wine type of thing? Like
I mean, I don't, that's awesome. I don't know.
Like at that point, would it be like something different?
It wasn't really a trick question, sort of. Never. I would have thought. Yeah, right, yeah, right. But I like your answer. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I mean, is there, but some awesome trick by which you eventually could do it? I'm not going to say definitely not. I'm open to that. I think that's wonderful. That's great that you're open to that. And who knows, maybe we could do it. Yeah, right. Water into wine, water into butter. Yeah, totally. It's the Tibetan tea version of water into wine, because they put butter in their tea and like baking soda and stuff. Yeah, anyway, it's crazy.
The yak butter is the thing where that coffee butter thing came from.
Oh, probably, right?
Started from
Yeah.
tea with yak.
Like caveman coffee or
Like that,
right.
all the different.
All the MCTs
Yeah.
and your whatnot. Right, totally.
Which is interesting you say that butter. I didn't know that butter's more nutrient dense, which makes it interesting that.
I didn't say that,
Well,
right?
it is.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
like
it is.
You were saying that
Oh.
the nutrients are there, they're probably more concentrated in the
Oh,
food
maybe.
that you eating. I would assume that there's not that, like.
I think that they can grow
But
that.
it probably, yeah.
I think they also like to avoid a serious consideration of vegetarianism, that and so they like also lean heavily on the idea that they can't grow vegetables, but I think they could grow a little bit. It's not so. I think if they really were determined, and like the Dalai Lama, he doesn't eat meat anymore, but like a lot of the monks do. It is whatever. The bad habit. And I'm not, I do eat meat sometimes. I'm not, trying to sell vegetarianism. I think it's a good idea. I'm not perfect. I think it's wonderful. Run out and be vegetarian. And I hope to reach you there soon. So could you have a practice, you see, that just didn't have the stuff in it? And, if that were true, okay, if that's possible, then you could practice it for any amount of time, right? And it just can't do anything. It just couldn't do anything, right? So like, how do we try to assess? And it's hard because we have to try to assess from our position. And this is always a difficult thing, like how do you assess from an unrealized, unenlightened standpoint, right? Well, on one level, it's like, well, go find someone who's realized and take their advice, you know? But like, how did you get to the conclusion that they're realized? Like, in a way, you're still relying on you to decide that they're so smart that you can trust them. So you're still kind of stuck with you, you know, in the beginning. It's a problem. We're the best we got. The buck stops here, you know, to some extent. You've got to do your best and use your best judgment, right? So there's sort of a traditional set of guidelines to help you assess that, and we'll talk about that, and then we'll decide to progressively agree or not agree with them as you see fit, or it doesn't matter. But my teacher always said not to disagree out of hand. Maybe he said, like, put it on the shelf and come back to it later if you don't agree. There could be some weird reason that you don't see yet. I think most of these are not too controversial, except maybe the first one. Cool. Let's say, okay, here, I'll write first, okay? And I won't always write Tibetan, but I'm just trying to plant seeds. Or I won't always write the Tibetan letters. Here. Okay, say Tomba, Sangye, Ki Sungba. Do you know Sangye, Oscar?
Yeah, Buddha or enlightened being.
Yay, that's an easy one. Good. Do you know Tumba?
No,
That's okay.
Oh. like
Yeah.
map. No, I don't know.
It means the teacher, and I like to think of it as the teacher with a capital T. Which in the Buddhist tradition almost always refers to that guy. Okay, it almost always refers to the Buddha. Okay, when they say Tumba, okay, that particular word, it's like an honorific word for teacher. So it's like like they have like an honorific in a casual language, right? Like you wouldn't use the same words even to talk to mom, dad, or the Dalai Lama as you would use to talk to your cat. It would be considered inappropriate, right? You literally use different words. Spanish has some of that, right? Yeah. They call it like honorific or something, but then that, then they don't call the other one not non-honorific, I like non-honorific for a word, but it's not a word, but I like it. Tumba is honorific for teacher, okay? Sumba means to speak, okay? To speak, okay, or spoken by, okay? Here, the by is here, really. This kind of goes backwards. Remember we talked about things going backwards a little bit sometimes in Tibetan grammar. So it's like it was spoken by the Buddha, okay? So I can make up some, I don't know, like, did someone just make it up? Okay. Did someone just make it up? Now, if someone makes up something, does it mean it's wrong? I mean, I have a problem with that to some extent. You be right about some stuff. I mean, like I said, I think the first one is hard in a way. Okay. But I'm not going to not report it the way it's reported in the book. Okay. Their position on the matter is, especially if you want to do a true Dharma, okay, a true teaching, a true practice that's a Buddhist practice, right? It should come from the Buddha. So, like, what came from the Buddha? This is hard, right? There are collections of books in Sanskrit, right? So the Buddha lived, I don't know, 500 BC-ish, okay? I think teachings didn't really start getting written down until like 300 or so BC, right? So 200 years after the passing, a bunch of dudes get together and say, oh, I heard him say this, I heard him say that. They start scribbling things down. This goes on for a long time. They're writing stuff down into the ADs. Even there's a bunch of books. It's hard because there's this big debate between the different schools. Some schools agree about what the Buddha taught, and some schools say, no, he didn't teach that. And some, in fact, what they call Hinayana and Mahayana, and maybe it's not the nicest words to use sometimes now, it gets debated, but you'll see it in books.
Like they call it the lesser way and the greater way. And on one level, it means like, are you trying to get enlightened for you, or are you trying to get enlightened for everybody, right? So it means like the greater capacity or lesser capacity. Are you trying to get yourself out of this mess, or are you trying to get everyone out of the mess? But so the greater way books basically accepts all of the books. And then the lower way books, the lower way says that the greater way guys made up a bunch of baloney. And then they get into these debates about, well, you know, our books are authentic because even you accept our books, right? We're the lower way. We don't accept your cockamamie books, but even you accept our books. So clearly our books are the best. And then they have this thing about Nagarjuna. You know how the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras are come about, Oscar? How Arya Nagarjuna finds those?
With the Nagas, you mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So he's like, no, my scriptures are the most authentic because they're these snake people you see, and they showed up and they took me to their underwater village and they gave me these books that you didn't know about. So it's like, I get it. It's a dubious story, right? But in the end, they get to this thing about like, well, does it, and we'll get there here too, right? Does it work? Do the teachings work? Do the teachings produce realizations? And if that's true, then that proves they were spoken by the Buddha. Right. Well, they would say that. So what does that mean? You know, and that doesn't make, on one level, it doesn't make perfect sense, right? Right. From a historical standpoint, that doesn't make sense at all. But I feel like you could, right, as we start to learn about emptiness a little bit, right? And we'll talk about it a little bit each class, and I should be fired immediately if it doesn't come up a little bit each class. Things are not real outside of you according to Buddhism without the way that you feel about them, without the shape of your heart, right, that you bring to each interaction. Things don't have like a true essence waiting to assert themselves to you. So who was the Buddha really? You see, and we talked about before, we had this thing in class before, okay? What is this thing? A marker, fine. I'll take it, yeah, right? And would a dog see a pen or a marker? Chew toy, right? And if all the dogs and all the people leave the room, oh look, it's a chew toy looker at her. What do you think? What do you think this is? There's a dog in the picture. Nothing. Not even. I can't even get chew toyness. Doesn't even look appealing. Right. It's okay. If all the dogs and all the people leave the room, then what is this thing? So you get in this same question about an enlightened being. Like, what is it for you? Like, who is that being for you? And I don't know. Like, I it's delicate where I'm trying to get with this. Okay, and I'm pushing it, right? But if there's like if you need to rely on a real historical Buddha that exists independent of the way that you see things and independent of the shape of your heart, according to Buddhism, you can't get enlightened. But if you can depend on an enlightened being that is dependent upon the shape of your heart, then you can get enlightened and you can depend on that being. And only then could you meet that being. They say, like we talked about when we talked about the bodies of a Buddha, that like they appear to anyone who's ready, and they can appear spontaneous to as many people on earth as are ready to receive them. They say like the moon appears spontaneously to every body of water on earth at the same time as in the tear of the eye of a child. And the moon doesn't think to go there, you see. So if something makes realizations, is the thing a Buddhist teaching because the Buddha spoke it, or is the thing a Buddhist teaching if it's true? Or depend on your opinion of Buddhism, right? But if you wanted to rewrite Buddhism, and of course from a Buddhist perspective, right? for them, Buddhism is truth. So if they say, if something turns out not to be true, wouldn't they have to go back and say, well, that's not Buddhism? All right, anyway, so number one, they say, should have been spoken by the Buddha. Okay, that's number one if you were doing homework. Oh, what else was spoken by the Buddha? There are about 1,000 books. Okay, 1,000 books, right? How many books are there in the Bible? Anyone know? 50 something. I'll take it. It's old American. Great. I don't know. I don't remember. Okay. I don't even know the Old Testament. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I know there are 5 books of Moses, and then I'm in trouble. The Torah. But I was raised Jewish. It's okay. I don't have to know the bigger number, right? 1,000 books. Okay, attributed to the Buddha. Okay, and then there are 3,000 commentaries on those that were translated from Sanskrit into Tibetan. They call it Tengyur, Kangyur Tengyur. Ka means like the holy word, meaning the word of the Buddha. Gyur means translated. So Ka, which was translated from Sanskrit to Tibetan, or Tengyur, 10 commentaries, which were translated from Sanskrit to Tibetan by, some of the freakiest super freaks in the Buddhist tradition in ancient India. Okay, like Arjuna. So which I think it's relevant to number 2. Okay, we'll say Kyun Sawa. Okay, say Pandite. Kyun Sawa. Selwa means to clean. Okay, to clean or to clear. Kyun, do you know Kyun? Do you know Kyun Mindu? It's a joke in the monastery because it's like it means like if your your car or your motorcycle or whatever breaks down in India and you go to the monastery and the guy says he's going to fix it by Friday, and he says, really, you say I really need it by Friday. He says Kymindu, right? No problem. But it's always a problem. There's always a problem. So kyun means a problem. Okay, a problem. Okay, you could say a problem or a defect. Okay. Okay. It's been cleaned of problems by Pandita. What's a Pandita?
Well, it's like a master. I don't know how to say
I
it.
like it. Let's say master. Let's say master scholar.
Okay.
It's actually a loan word from Sanskrit to Tibetan. Pandit. Okay, Pandita is a Sanskrit, and in fact, we basically have it in English, right? Yeah, we say like pundits, like political pundits, right? Or turkeys on TV who think they know everything about politics. Yeah, and they get paid lots of money to go hang out on CNN or whatever and tell you how smart they are. But the idea is there's been this like many thousands of year process. There's this thing, right? When I first got into studying like spiritual philosophy, Buddhism, all this stuff, I was into there was this guy. Anyone know Alan Watts? Alan Watts. I just love this guy. I mean, now I have a hard time listening, whatever. But when I was young, there was this whatever local radio station. It was like a half hour of like Alan Watts, and he would talk. There were these old recordings, and it was just like totally trippy, and like probably he read some stuff, and maybe the implication was that maybe he had visited Japan and done drugs or whatever, and now he knew some stuff. And I thought he was amazing. And there was a lot of this, like the Beat generation, right? Like Jack Kerouac, Gary Snyder, these guys, they were cool. I was into that stuff a lot, but they were working with, it was kind of before, they were working just with the ka. You remember what ka means from 40 seconds ago or so, but I told you didn't really have to remember, and it's true, you don't. Good for you. No, but you gave it the old college try. Ka means like the word of the Buddha. Okay, it's like an honorific for it's actually an honorific for word or speech or mouth. Ka. Okay, so spoken by the Buddha, things spoken by the Buddha. They're really hard to read. Okay. You have no eyes, no ears, no nose, no mouth, no body, no mind. There's nothing to see, nothing to hear, nothing to taste, nothing to touch, nothing to think of. There's no part of you sees. There's no part of you that sees. There's no part of you that's aware of what you're seeing. And the same is true all the way up to the part of you that thinks and the part of you that is aware that you are thinking. Fuck does that mean? You know, like it's very cryptic and mysterious, okay, and kind of sexy. You know, you're like, wow, that sounds amazing. You know, and it's kind of like all we had for a long time, right? And then the commentaries, the Tengyur, okay, the traditional commentaries that like kind of didn't come out of Tibet until Tibet was invaded, frankly. You know, I mean, I'm not really into people being invaded, especially in this day and age, you know, but in some ways that went well for me. There were a bunch of books that were hidden away in Tibet that they were protecting. And you kind of couldn't get there and get to those books unless, you know, because they're up in the mountains, unless you could bomb them from the air. And when that was finally feasible, then a lot of monasteries were bombed, and a lot of the lamas came out with these commentaries to the ancient works. So there's this idea that people want to get to the straight dope. I want to read the straight dope, you know, like I don't want to hear your idea about it, right? I want to read the thing. But when you go and you read the thing, it's like it could mean whatever the hell you want it to mean. Okay. So did the author not care what it meant? Right? Was the Buddha like, it can mean whatever you want it to mean, right? Or was the Buddha speaking in the context of his students and an environment in which everyone kind of knew what he was talking about, right? And then not long after that, his students write a little bit of clarification, and not long after that, the students of those students write some clarification. And what you get is this like you know, onion skin, right, of like commentary after commentary after commentary after commentary, right? And these guys live closer to us and speak like us and have some sense of the context of our experience, right? These people, you know, these people are like, you know, it's like the water jug in your house that you have to go fill by the stream every time you want to do the dishes. And you're like, okay, right? And this one is like, oh, it's like the plumbing in your house that the water comes in, right? Like, oh, right, okay, like this is much harder to understand than this. And so this process, right, the pundits, right, the master scholars across time, like go and compare different people's, compare this guy's commentary to this guy's commentary, or this guy's commentary to this guy's commentary, and compare it to what we know of the original. And it kind of does get, in my experience, it kind of gets cooler over time. Like the Tibetans are gnarly. I mean, it's badass. The writing's amazingly sophisticated, profound, you know, on par with, you know, some of the greatest Western philosophers that have been, you know, on par with Shakespeare, you know, I mean, beautiful. But people didn't know about it for a long time, right? So we just had the beat poets going, you know, yeah, nothing, you are nothing, and your toes are nothing, and everything's nothing. And you're like, all right, you know, I don't know what to do with that, right? That doesn't really help me. Like, okay, cool. So this process, okay, of master scholars sifting through the work, right? Is there a tradition going back of this thing being alive, right? And like we talk about it sometimes when we talk about, right, you're learning Ashtanga, right? Who started Ashtanga? Yeah, Patabi Joyce. Who is his teacher? Yeah.
Was he the one You said it goes back to where like some divine being. came
Yeah,
down.
not in that lineage.
No.
It's no, but Krishnamacharya was their teacher, and Krishnamacharya couldn't find anyone to teach him yoga. He actually couldn't find an Indian to teach him yoga. He had to go up into the Himalayas, maybe even to Tibet. Looks like he might have, yeah, right, to learn the physical asanas. Anyway, he was kind of up in that area on the border. So do you know where a thing came from? Is there a living tradition unbroken, and how far back? That's valuable if you can establish that, right? And okay, so let's look at another quality. Okay, number 3. Yeah, okay. Well, it doesn't matter. Cool. So, yeah. Yeah, this is just like for the sake of pronouncing, okay? Say Trupe, Wangchuk Nam,
One shoot nam
Ki,
ki
Tu Sam Gom,
tu sam gong
Sum,
sum
Tokpa,
tokpa
Tukyu,
tukyu
La Trung.
la tru.
Okay, so this means like gives rise to, okay, gives rise, okay, to, okay, again, Tibetan grammar kind of works backwards, okay, gives rise to what, okay, like a transmission, okay, a transmission or lineage, okay, okay, or Tokpa, what's Tokpa? Do we know Tokpa? Yeah, cool. Okay, so it gives rise to realizations. Okay, I didn't say I could spell English. Especially through to some gom sum, Oscar, maybe.
Like learning, contemplating and meditating upon the teachings.
Made me so happy. Yeah, totally. We'll say study, contemplation. And meditation. Su means 3, those 3, okay? In who Wangchuk Nam, Wangchuk means like a lord, okay, or a master. Drupe, a realized, okay. It's actually in the word like Dundrup, which is Siddha, like Siddhartha. Here, this is like plural. Anyway, Nam is like an S. Okay, so people who studied it, okay, hopefully those masters who went around clearing it of defects and studying it should have had cool stuff happen to them, right? Like they should be cool and they should have had nice lives and wonderful things have happened to them. You should kind of be able, hopefully, if you can go back through the lineage of a teaching and say like, well, how did it go? Hopefully it went really well for them, right? Or there's a problem, you know, or why would we do it, right? So can you look through a lineage and say, well, like, who's been doing it? How's it been going? And like, do I like those cats? You know, like, do I want to be like that? And if not, right, then maybe we're barking up the wrong tree. There are beautiful stories. Now it's hard to say, like the stories are like kind of fanciful and beautiful. And, when you read about the masters of the lineage, it's beautiful. You don't really know. Of course, you don't really know, like you got to take the word of each progressive person telling you the story of their teacher, and, but the stories are really beautiful. I mean, like you were saying, well, is that the guy who like, yeah, in that lineage, right? In the, whatever, the guy who started the 26 and 2 or whatever he who shall not be named, right? Right. His teacher, Vishnu Ghosh, had a teacher who was Yogananda, right? Who had a teacher, who was Yogananda's teacher?
Sivananda?
No, he wasn't. No, it's a different lineage. Yogananda's teacher is Sri Yukteswara, whose teacher was Lahari Mahasaya, whose teacher was Babaji. But if you go read Autobiography of a Yogi, like at a certain point, like Babaji shows up and like hangs out with Yogananda and like, tells him all sorts of sweet, inspiring things. I think even Jesus shows up at a certain point in the book. It's a weird book. Anyway, sounds like a hoot. Yeah. Okay. Tusam I scribbled it down quick. All right, but like through the process of it's famous. Tusam Gom Sum. Say Tusam Gom Sum. Tusam Gom Sum. Study, contemplation, meditation. It's this like 3-part formula that's considered like, even Sarah Monastery is called Sarah Me Tusam Ling, which means like the garden of study and contemplation, which raises the question, what happened to the meditation? And you don't always see a lot of it in the monastery. They're running around debating all the time. But to means like raw classroom hours, almost like sitting learning stuff. Some means contemplating. I think that it can refer to debate, and they have like a very active formal debate lineage in the monasteries where they go and they duke it out under the stars and get in like beautiful arguments, formal arguments with each other. And I think that's really important. And whether you're doing it in a formal debate lineage, which is a beautiful thing to do, and I do want to institute that at some point. I want us to have that. But I feel like we need to make sure that we have content to debate first. And then we should debate. When I studied, we were required like twice a week to go and, contradict with each other everything our teacher taught us and go argue about it. And in the monastery, it's every day. I think that you can go whatever, you can go to a coffee shop and you can duke it out with each other. You don't have to have the formal debate training. It does help. It helps to debate well. It helps to be able to think clearly. I even think like they talk about clairvoyance and like weird magic powers that you can get from like meditation and stuff. I think between the things that you can see already and the mystical things that you could maybe see someday are the things that you can see as your clarity of mind gets better and better, even just through logic. You see that you can a world starts to reveal itself that's hidden from you just by your ability to make logical connections that starts to sneak into the realm of almost supernatural, in my opinion. Okay, but it's not. You could demonstrate it. You could sit and prove it. But you get the ability to sit and prove things that are just hidden from people who don't think so clearly, right? Which is, in a way, it's also just like being really good at math, which I ain't. But then, yeah, what is it to like have those skills, right? To have mastered, calculus or, quantum formulus or whatever the next thing is. You know, right, like what things can you see, right? To stare into the guts of the machine like that, like it must be amazing. I don't know, I'll never know. But I have been blessed to get to debate a lot with people who are smarter than me, and that's the best. You know, that's the best. And kids are really good at it, actually, because they're used to being told they're wrong. And so it's no big deal. Like when you tell an adult, like, no, you're wrong, and here's why, like there's defensiveness, like, for you to tell me I'm wrong, you know, like, well, you're wrong, you know, like, it's not, I'm sorry, you know, like sometimes you're wrong about stuff. And I'm sorry you've reached a point in your life where no one tells you you're wrong anymore, but it didn't make you right all the time. It just, you know, it means that you're missing out because everyone around you is so damn polite. And I think, right, you see it in, like, you know, major political leaders and such that seem like, oh, you just haven't had anyone around you to tell you you're being a dumbass for too many years, you know, and now you think every idea you have is just genius. And if you're playing with difficult, complicated ideas and you're not regularly exposing your thinking to other people, you're probably wrong. You probably are. You know, so to some, okay, study, contemplation, I'm including debate, okay, contemplation with friends, okay, and then meditation, okay, which is different. That's honing the mind to stay single pointed, kind of on the conclusions that you get from those debates in some cases, right? So you can come to a conclusion, but then to be able to stay there, to be able to set your mind in one place and have it stay there, to be able to dig deep in one hole, right? I don't know, there's a saying, right? Something like that, right? Like one who digs in the same hole gets deeper than whoever digs in 1,000 holes, or even 12 probably. Okay. Yeah. He goes, okay, so he segues to qualities of a good student, right? So we can do that. Like, I think we could take a little break and drink tea and eat a cookie, or 73 of them. I don't have 73 for each of us.
Whoever wins the debate gets the box.
I would love to get to that. Yeah, I mean, I still, well, you know, we'll do that someday, you know, and like you always have tea and cookies at the debates, you know, like that's really, it's an important part of the debates. And I got to be the debate master at my school, and it was really a cool honor because it sounds cool, but it really meant that I was the one in charge of making sure that there were tea and cookies, which is also an honor. Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm any smarter. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
You can speak a little faster, a little clearer.
Totally. Yes. That's
Typically have the coffee and tea when you're over halfway done too.
that's not a bad idea. In my case at the time,
Caffeine and sugar that
probably in my case at the time, the answer was both. And I think in the monasteries probably also. I mean, those guys, they were just always drinking tea. You know, before the advent of better water cleansing capacities, right? There were like 2 kinds of beverages that were safe to drink, right? And it was like alcoholic beverages, right? Because microbial stuff doesn't live in alcohol, or bless you, or boiled beverages, right? Which often meant coffee and tea. And so, yeah, we don't have to do that anymore. It's pleasant. But yeah, the Tibetans drank so much tea, you know, my teacher's teacher, even my teacher, I mean, even Geshe Michael, you know, I see him go through 4 cups of coffee in a day, easy. I drink a lot of coffee and I can't always keep up with him, but his teacher drank, 374 cups of tea a day. But I don't know, I would just want to say that like, your time is precious, like your spiritual real estate is precious, and learning practices, it's like, we only have so much time, we're so busy, like think deeply about what's worth your time, right? Because you could spend, and I won't call anyone out, like it's not interesting to me to call anyone out, because I don't really know, because I can't see another person's mind, but it seems like there are probably wrong ways to meditate, and you get all these warnings, and you see like people who it seems like you could spend 20 years meditating wrong, and at best it won't do anything. And at worst, it could make you weird. It could make you weird, like there's a very famous thing in meditation that they call Qinghua. Do you know Qinghua? Qinghua and Gupa, Oscar, the two great enemies of meditation?
All dullness and agitation.
Yeah. Ariel, if you know the answers to all these questions, but you don't have your camera on, I'm gonna think that I shouldn't call on you. So, but I'm not offended if you don't have your camera on. But if you were like, why isn't he calling on me? Because I assume that you're, whatever, you're just getting out of you guys are getting out of the shower or something, and I shouldn't okay, well, God bless. All right, but if you wish you could answer, you let me know. There's a state of meditation that you can reach where you're just kind of spaced out, and it feels good, and traditionally is described as being a dead end. Like it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really increase your capacity to understand things more deeply. It feels nice, right? But you just kind of like zone out. Perfect meditation, you're like jazzed, man, like you're not like 4 cups of coffee jazzed where like it's a problem, you're jazzed, but you can't, and maybe I used this metaphor before, but it always comes up for me, like we talked about it before, like operating on the wings of a butterfly, right? Like you're perfectly relaxed, perfectly still, perfectly accurate. You're sharp, but you're soft, right? Your intention is clear and direct and focused, but it's the right amount of easy and precise. And that's perfect meditation. Perfect meditation is not like, as it's traditionally explained, okay, is not what happens just before you fall asleep. That's falling asleep, right? And you'll hear that, okay? You'll hear stuff like that, where it's like, oh, it's just your goal is to get to that state where it's like right before you fall asleep and things start getting like trippy and weird. And like, that's dullness. That's gross dullness. And you can cultivate that state and it feels nice. It's even painful to rouse yourself from, it's like getting out of bed in the morning when you don't feel like it, that's how it feels when you're in that state, to be like, no, you got to like pull it together. It's unpleasant. But then when you find that samadhi, right, that balance, samapatti, set in balance between those two, right, then you have this incredible mind that can plumb the depths of reality and solve all the problems about, really whatever you want, but help yourself and people figure out how to be happy, we hope, and not just how to be dopey and sleepy. And it's not the goal. Have some tea, and have a cookie or something. Did you bring cookies, Oscar?
Yes, I think I have some cookies there.
I hope there's a cookie back there somewhere. All right, good. All right,
Thanks.
let me try this. Okay.
Ooh,
Start
back
warm.
to nature.
the only other person, oh, it's still in CrossFit, person in what seems like the world right now that has seen that spider.
Oh.
You saw the web. Have you seen
There's
this
a
one?
little, so in the steel there's like a hole. I bet you it's up.
Probably. Because I even went to one morning, I saw it, and I asked Scott.
Yeah.
Something, and he was like looking at it, and he's like, I don't see it, I don't see it, and I was like, so then we looked it up. Spider. It's like, you see a spider in your life?
Oh.
And then what does it mean? One, it means that things basically are transmuting energy into like. Wow.
Well, I mean, who says
It makes me feel better about being able to see the spider.
Well, it's funny on the, oh,
Oh, that's Sam's.
hold on.
It's happening.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's said that. Yeah, that's a. And is that milk?
It is
That's.
plant-based snacks.
Literally looking at these routes.
We're out first day. It's like peanut butter. Peanuts filled with peanut butter. Okay, the plant-based and milky ones.
Okay, now, it also, right, it was made in a facility that may or may not, okay.
So the reason they have to say that is because the equipment that they use it on is clean, because it has to be clean anyway. But they can't, there's a difference between a peanut-free facility that has never seen peanuts versus one that also uses it, and they, by law, because of how the allergy is, they have to say that.
Never know.
Like like what they're saying is there is a small like fraction of a percent of a chance that like a peanut micro
Okay.
got into this.
Well, and there could be people whose allergies are that sensitive.
They're all wow.
Hey, Matt.
Is this dark chocolate too? Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. I really like the bracelet. I noticed this one. What is it?
It's just a mola. I mean, it's for, oh, I don't know. Let's see. Can I do this without, no wings. Alright. Yeah.
For meditation or prayer?
They're for counting mantras. Yeah, which are mostly secret. But there are some non-secret mantras. Like we'd say this one at the end of that first verse. Here we go. Okay. You do it.
It's doing it.
No. Thank you. Let's see.
I feel like all things considered, like how you talk about progress.
I don't know if this is perfect either. That's okay. All right. Guys, don't drink the tea. I'm sorry. I don't. It's like curdling, weird.
Can I just try? Now I want to.
Yeah, you can try. I'm not like. I'll try to.
Yeah, it's okay. It's good. I also am trying to completely not adverse to texture.
Okay. All right. Well, look, you each person decide for themselves. I don't totally trust it.
I don't.
It
You
I
too?
think it might be a thing you like drink from the top and it slowly settles, like a Turkish coffee or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey.
So maybe
But
it's-
then if you keep cooking,
Oh, then what will happen?
I don't know.
Then I'll get to eat that cookie.
Yeah, but you have to eat the cookie.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
oh,
Is it Thai vegan?
go again?
Is it Thai vegan?
Is it Thai vegan?
Is it Thai vegan?
I think it's really good too.
It is, but it's not great. Because there's sugar.
I've been, the chai is vegan, but but the inclusion of the creamer of the oat and the
Yeah, no, I know, sometimes it
didn't
doesn't.
work this time.
I don't know what.
About the- Yeah, that's what they're there for.
You can like. Walk up the wall.
Sure. Oh,
Oh.
one? What are you saying?
Is it not a, how does it want to be there?
Sure, I wouldn't do it in this. I'd be nervous about you doing it with socks. Yeah, totally. But yeah. Oh, and there's like spilled stuff over here also for you to run into. Yeah.
I'll just come.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Isn't that a fun way to teach?
Inversions.
Yeah. Like headstand?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So what?
In your commercial, Kevin's in a headset.
Yeah, exactly. Right, like that.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Wow.
You need to get your head and neck stronger for the no hand headstand.
Yeah, right. I can't do yet. That's fun, you know, even just like, it's a fun thing to try just on grass. Grass or a thick carpet. Just play with like. What? And then you gotta get someone to take the picture right then.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, right. The chai's not bad, I know, but it's not creamy.
Oh, which is so weird. That was my introduction to a coffee shop.
Oh, really?
Chai. So you can coffee.
It's not bad. It's pretty good. It's not because those cookies were made on a facility shared with peanuts, right?
No. No.
Okay.
I laughed on that poor first class. He brought like peanut butter covered peanuts. Outside. Wow.
They were good though.
Is that what I got?
Yeah, a little bit.
I was curious on some of the homework pages why the language seems a little different, but,
Spelling wise.
some of the words seemed, like a Pandite, ten la.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I guess that same concept you're talking about, but.
Let me see. I'll look. Oh, ten la papa. Yeah, right. They did. He did it differently in the original class. So I did too, but you're right. I'll accept either. What did I say? I said, this literally doesn't mean the same thing. Pandite den la pep. You go with my way. You go with the in-class way for now. I definitely agree with that. Kyun selwa definitely means cleaned of defects. Pep. Yeah, I'm not sure what it means. It means people haven't gone before. But you're looking at the answer key anyway, right? And yeah, right. So that's cheating anyway. You have to try to answer it. And then, I'm kidding.
Like so.
You know, there's a rich, beautiful tradition of plagiarism in Buddhism. That there's this thing like if like whatever Jetson Kappa said something like you find like later authors who just like they grab whole chapters from Jetson Kappa and just like throw them in their book, and it's like, well, what was I going to say? It better. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I used to think that when I would write papers.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Why do I have to rephrase it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, totally. Right. You just want me to, I'm supposed to trick you into thinking that I didn't get this off the internet. I got it off the internet. You want me to rephrase it? Fine. Right. Yeah, I think it's nice. But yeah, okay. The reading at this point talks about qualities. So we're talking about qualities of the teaching, and then we talked about qualities of the teacher. Okay. We talk now about qualities of the teaching, and then they talk about qualities of the student. And we already did it a little bit. There was a thing in the reading they called the problems of the pot. Okay, but here, this is a section from Arya Deva. It doesn't really matter, but he lived like 100, maybe 200 AD. Okay. He said, okay, Surne, here, I'll write it first. Surne, London. Dunierwa. Nyembo. New. Oh yeah, new. Okay, cool. New means like a vessel. Okay. Just like a weird word for us. We don't use that word in English too much, but like, I don't know, right? Like, you know, whatever, lots of water vessels you have around you. That's nice that everyone brings their own water vessel and we're not all buying a bunch of plastic in the store. I just like had a long conversation this morning with someone about like, it was like I went on a road trip and I forgot my water bottle. And he's like, I'm not buying plastic. I'm just like, shit out of luck. Like, okay, it's fine. Whatever. I'm not going to drink water. It's a 5-hour trip. I'm just not going to have water. It's okay. You know, like I'll be fine, you know, and maybe I won't do that again next time, but I'm not buying that plastic crap. Which I thought was sweet. I'm also not judging anybody for buying their plastic crap, but let's not. If we can avoid it, it's great. But it's hard. New means a vessel, in this case, like a proper vessel, meaning a vessel that is proper to receive something. Like they talked about there was a thing earlier in the reading where they talked about the problems of a pot, that a student shouldn't, I don't know, they should be open. It shouldn't be a cracked vessel so that stuff leaks out. There shouldn't be a dirty vessel, right? So nyen means to listen, okay? So this means like, yeah. Oh, whoops, lesson, not listen, not lesson. Yeah, let's say to hear. Okay, so it means like a proper vessel to hear has like three qualities. To hear what? To hear a, you know, a teaching, a dharma. You know, there's a thing like in the Bible. It's a do you know who Krishna Das is? Krishna Das, nobody knows who Krishna Das is anymore. Once upon a time, he was like so famous. Anyway, he's this famous kirtan singer. And he was raised Jewish and was going off to India to learn things. And like when his teacher was like, yeah, it's all like, he was trying to be like ecumenical. And it's like, it's all just like Jesus said, you know, and he's like, oh, you know, it's like the last thing he wanted to hear. But I don't know. I feel like I like Jesus's stuff maybe because I was Jewish and I never had it like beat into me or anything. But I know we all have our baggage about whatever we came from, you know. But he talks about this thing about like pearls before swine, which is, it's also kind of like mean sounding, but like also you have to be, you don't do anybody any favors to share with them things that they can't use or they're not ready for. And in fact, you could do someone a real like disservice by sharing something that they're not ready for. I taught a class today. I taught a yoga class today, and I don't know. It's not like I've never taught this before, you know, I would, but it's like a lot of what I teach. It's like I'm teaching people to bring the mind again and again back to an object again and again while they do their practice, right? Like that, using inner and outer method, you're using your body, you're using your mind at the same time. When these two work in tandem, it's more powerful. That's the idea of Hatha Yoga. So what are you going to focus on? You know, focusing on love happens to be an incredibly powerful object. But it's also like the word love in our language is like so, I don't know, maybe it's overused or it's just so common, but the sentiment is good. But I'm like afraid to, like I'm shy to say it. And there are realizations that you can have that like they seem too obvious to be shared. You know, like what are you going to say? Oh, I figured it out. Like love is the key. You know, well, like yeah. You know, like what's someone gonna say? Like, oh yeah, love is the key. Okay, I know. No, I know. No, I know. But like, no, you don't understand. Like, something came to me, something that came over me, and I saw, like, I know I heard that too, you know. But like, I'm telling you, like, love is the key. And Martin Luther King Jr. said, love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. And so what then, you know, I'm going to have a whole class where I just like, I say like, bring your mind back to love, bring your mind back to love again and again. And we'll just do that for a whole class just to practice. If I could do every class like that, I would, but it wouldn't be appropriate. You know, it's in a way it's too obvious. And in a way like we're not ready or I'm not ready, or like, it's too like, our like shyness and sensitivity about what seems like overly simple or naive or pure can get in our way. But it might be that simple. It might be that simple that like, you could wear a mala, right? And you could use it to say your mantras. And I never do, like I never do. It's in my pocket or I keep it at home, right? And then and you can say a mantra and you can think what's behind the mantra, but you also don't have to think the thing. You see, you could just pick a beat and bring your mind back to love. And then you could just go to the next beat and bring your mind back, and you could have it in your pocket and you could have it nearby. And someone will probably be like comment on it or notice it, and you'll be a little embarrassed and you'll try to pass it off like, nah, it's a thing, don't know, there's nothing,
I'm sorry.
no, you're what, no, not at all, like it's gonna, whatever, like you take that, no, you're sweet, you're like, that's a nice bracelet, not, you're perfect, you're perfect, no, no, well, what are you supposed to know, right? Like it's my, I didn't keep it in my pocket. I didn't keep it secret, right? Now you're perfect and you're safe, but also like, what happens if you come to someone and you have this epiphany and you're like, I see that if I just return my mind to love 100 times today, that would be like a complete practice, because the world isn't really what it seems to be out there. The world out there is dependent upon the shape of my heart. And all I would have to do is bring my mind back to love intentionally 5 times today. And maybe I could do it 6 tomorrow, and maybe 7 the next day, and 100 the next day. And one day, maybe 1,000 times in a day, I could bring my mind back to love. And one day, maybe I'd go a whole day when I wouldn't forget it. And that would change the shape of this world. And what happens if you say something like that to someone and they're like, yeah. Some part of you would be like, no, you're right. I know, yeah, it does sound a little dumb, I guess. And that's the saddest thing. It's the saddest thing to damage such a beautiful thing. You have to be so, and that's what he meant, right? Casting pearls before swine. It's not nice to call people swine. Jesus probably shouldn't do that. There's no way to make friends. And
Like he wasn't too good at making friends.
yeah, there were some issues. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally went weird for him at the end. So how do we be open? Like, what if? Am I ready for you to give me? So Kendra and I, we went and stayed with some family, and like they asked us some stuff about yoga. You were in her class this morning. She told you about this. Yeah. She got a prana tattoo, and Kendra was, she was like, oh, what does it mean? And Kendra was like, well, blah, blah, blah. And then she just talked about trust and love and lack of fear and not spending time dwelling on what was frightening, because if you're going to lose what you have, then enjoy it while you have it. Enjoy what's around you now. And here, whatever we thought, we were sharing our wisdom, but like she was sharing, like where we, had this rare moment of being wise enough to shut up and listen. Rare for me. Of saying like, oh, like, oh, I'm like, oh, I hope we sound smart. I hope that was helpful. I hope that sounded smart. I hope we said a bunch of smart things that were useful to, and then I'm like, oh, go on. So similar, okay. Impure, that's not the nicest thing either. That's a little swiney. We'll talk about it. Oh no, that's not right. Impartial. Impartial. Intelligent. Okay. Having high aspirations. That's a good student, like that's how you be a good student. To who? To me? you know, like anywhere in your life, you know, don't come to another class, you know, get these 3 qualities, right? And like anyone could be your teacher, you know, anyone can be your teacher. If you don't know what they're going to say to you. You don't know who's going to tell you something brilliant. Okay. And you don't know the answers already if you got pissed off this week. If one time this week you were pretty pissed off, I got genuinely frustrated in traffic on the way here. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. You know, I'm going to go. But of course I do, you know, like, of course I do, you know, it's just as weird that I am surprised, you know, as it is that I get weird on, you know, on my way to talk with friends about Buddhism, you know, that I'm surprised that it, you know, whatever, that guy, I'm like, dude, that's not a turn lane. I'm like, it's really not a turn lane. Oh my God, I'm gonna wait behind you, and this is not even a turn lane. And I'm not gonna have time to make the chai right, which was true. So but not thinking, you know, like if I got mad today, then I don't know the solution to not get mad. Like I'm not there yet. I'm learning, you know, I'm learning and I'm studying and I'm trying to be open and I'm sharing it with friends because I need friends to share with. Like I need friends on the path, you know, too, who are like engaged in the process too, to learn alongside with. And that's worth taking everything that my teachers taught me and trying to share it, you know, in the hopes that I'm not alone trying to get better each day. I don't know all the answers, right? I don't know, you know, maybe there's some secret teaching in the mouth of someone I would never expect. A great student's smart. I mean, sorry, you know, like you don't want to believe, but like, you know, be smart if you can do it, you know, like it does take great, you know, I think it can be. I think it can be. I actually think it can be. I think that that a lot of lack of intelligence is laziness, you know, is not trying, is not challenging ourselves. I think that the mind is, I don't know that it's a muscle per se. In fact, it pretty clearly physically ain't, but
Neuroplasticity.
it sure is a lot like a muscle, isn't it? You know, I mean, you do something again and again and again, it gets better at it. And it definitely does, I think. You're not too sure? Some people are just helplessly stupid and can't do mental push-ups.
I can't see myself doing, you know, calculus 8.
I don't know what listen.
But you can't be smart, intelligent, and that thing. Those are different. Like you say calculus, I mean, like, well, probably people who do calculus are very bad at a lot of other.
Well, she said calculus 8 technically, and I don't know what the
I don't even.
Turns out it's a thing.
calculus 8.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, could you definitely couldn't do
I
it.
got a friend who went through it. I know what that
I mean, how's your calculus 1?
I took it twice and I failed it both.
I didn't even take it once. I didn't even get to that fine august level.
When I took it, I knew I was being lazy, but I also I don't use it and didn't want to use it. And I feel like had I really wanted, like really wanted to, like the way I want to do, like certain asanas or learn how to play a song, or learn how to sing a certain way.
Yeah, right.
Like I feel like that's kind of.
You also got to decide if it's worth it. Like, do you need to know calculus 8? I don't know. Okay. If your life depended on it.
That was it for me. Like, I don't necessarily think I was lazy per se.
Right.
Other things, but
If your life
Yeah,
depended on
yeah,
it,
just-
if your cat's life depended on it, I don't know if you're a cat person or not.
yeah,
You are.
total cat lady.
See, if your cat's life depended on it, would you, if the only way to save your cats was you were going to have to calculus 7? Yeah, I don't think that's a thing. I don't know. I'm sure I don't know. I'm not even sure if there are steps like that in between.
But yeah, like maybe that was part of it, the whole.
But it's hard. Like some of these concepts are hard. Okay. And if we keep going and then you go to debating and you know, if you come periodically over time, like it'll get hard. Like it gets hard. And if you Dunyerwa, right? If you want like really special stuff,
You see, like if you have high aspirations, right? Like, what if I could go a whole day without one time forgetting that that the most important thing is love? What if I could go a whole day? What if I could go a whole day and not one time forget in anything I was doing that there was no sense in doing any of it, but for love, you know? Could I go a whole single day and not one time forget? I kind of think I could. It wouldn't be easy. I know it wouldn't be easy. And after years of training, I can honestly say that the little bit of progress that I've made has shown me that I'm not close. but also that I believe you could. Like you could ask for amazing things and have them. You have to be smart. You might not have to know calculus 8. And you don't have to, you know, and I get this question, and it was it's a question that comes up a lot. Like you don't, and this is whatever, you don't, in my opinion, okay, this is not the lineage saying this, right? This is Ben's opinion and should be marked as such. This has not been cleaned by pandits, you know. It's not our place to say, right, that your life is somehow misplaced if you're not striving after love, if you're not striving after liberation, if you're not striving after seeing the world in beautiful or extraordinary ways, right? Living an extraordinary life, right? It's not my place to say that, but it's there for you if you want, you know. Like it's just a choice, right? It's a choice to aspire for those things, and if you want to reach for, right? It's not important to do a lotus handstand, right? That's not important, right? It's not important to do, you know, forearm stand or headstand or wherever you're at. It's not really going to serve you that much in life. It does feel good. It does feel really good. Actually, lotus forearm stand, which I can't even do a lotus handstand. Lotus forearm stand or whatever happens to feel really good. And it's fine. And there's other stuff that feels good and it's fine. Right. But to say like, I want to feel, I don't know, I want to feel better than pretty good. Am I allowed to ask for that? You know, I'll probably have to learn calculus 8 or its spiritual equivalent, you see. But I'm into it, you know, I'm into it. And what's that going to look like? What's the road to that going to look like? I don't know. I don't know yet. So coming with that impartiality, right? I don't know yet what it's going to look like. I'm open to what it's going to look like, right? Willing to work hard for it a little bit, you see? And being open to like, I don't know, maybe it could be not just good, but freaky good. I'm into it, you know, I'm into it. I would like that, right? And that's, you know, that's what makes a good student of a path to, you know, your own personal heaven. I'm trying. Mandala, you got time. We'll wait until you feel ready. I'll even give you a piece of paper if you want. Okay, sure. No problem. Yeah, it's fine. Here. Sashi Puki Jukshin Netok Tram Rirab Lingshi Niende Gempadi Zange Shingdu Mikte Uwargi Jokun Namdak Shingla Juparsho Idam Guru Rana Mandala Kam Niryadayami. Dedication. Gewati Keokun Sanam Yeshe Tsok Shing Sanam Yeshe Le Chungwe
Dampa kunito basho. Cool, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. You know, I'm always telling people who ask me, how can I learn to do full lotus? There are exercises for it, but like, I could just always do it, you know? So it's like, also, it's not that important. It is nice. It does feel good, you know, if you can do it. I find it helpful personally. It kind of like, just kind of straightens the spine, you know, if it's comfortable. Yeah.
I was telling you, when we first met, after our first week, I could not
Thank you.
sit in full lotus.
So I just
It's been such a journey.
saw my like a sister that I was not raised with. She's like a half sister. She's like 10 years older than me or something. We weren't raised together, and she's got this bunch of health problems and stuff, you know. And she just like, we were like out at Venice or whatever, and like trying to find a place to chill and chat, watch the kid play. And I'm like, can you sit here? And she just sits down in full lotus.
Really?
She doesn't do yoga. She doesn't exercise, I think, you know?
Like this?
Yeah, just no problem. It's just no problem for, you know, so like, I really didn't earn it. You know, it's not really like, I really can't, like, I can show you I have learned exercises for people, you know, who want to do it, but like, I could just always do it. You know, I can't really take any credit for it.
I mean, wouldn't it probably too be like a product of how your like hips are shaped, how usually, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally.
And your knees? I noticed that's a big
Ankles.
angle.
You know, I get stuff that I get some, but I don't get pain in my knees. I will get pain in my ankles eventually over time. If I spend too long there. But I would, you know, I mean, I would, you know, as a kid, like try to walk around like that, you know. Yeah, totally. That's not great on you. This floor is not great on your knees. Don't do that. It makes me scared for your knees.
It's not, you know where I whack myself is trying to do that lotus jump back.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Oscar. See you
And
soon.
if I don't
Good
unwind
night.
my face fast enough, I'll just smack the inside of my knee bone.
Bye bye, guys. Okay.
That's,
Say again.